The giants you admire were not born. They were built, one stone at a time. Every masterpiece begins with a single brushstroke. Every empire rises from a single decision. Every life of greatness is shaped by one step, repeated. The world tells you to leap, to sprint, to conquer everything at once. But the truth is sharper and more merciless. The mountain is never conquered in a single strike. It is conquered by 1,000 steps, each one small, each one deliberate. Control your eyes for a moment. Look around your life. Everything you see is a product of small steps taken or small steps ignored, habits formed or habits abandoned. The body you live in, the relationships you hold, the state of your finances, your career, even your peace of mind. All of it is the sum of tiny, repeated actions. You are not the victim of fate. You are the architect of repetition. Why do so many fail? It is not because the goal is unreachable. It is because they refuse to take the first small step. They despise the humble beginning. They want the giant, but they ignore the pebble. And so, they remain stuck, staring at mountains that will never move. There is a law written into the fabric of progress. It is the rule of one. One choice, one habit, one commitment done consistently will move mountains that force alone never could. Think of the soldier who wakes every day and makes his bed. At first glance, it is nothing, a meaningless act. But in truth, it is everything. Because that one act tells his mind, I am in control. The rest of the day follows that momentum. That one victory births another, then another, until a chain of discipline becomes a fortress of strength. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is the one small step you have been ignoring? What is the action so simple you have dismissed it as useless? Could it be writing a single page, saving a single dollar, choosing a single moment of silence before you react in anger? Every transformation is born in the ordinary. Ordinary steps, repeated until they become extraordinary. The giant is not built in a day. The giant is built in the shadows of consistency. You want to change your life? Then stop searching for the miracle. Stop waiting for the massive leap. Start with the first stone. Place it. Then place another tomorrow. And another the day after. That is how giants rise. The rule of one is not glamorous. It is not dramatic. But it is undefeated. Look closely at your own mind. It does not crave perfection. It craves progress. One victory feeds the next. One chain link connected to another becomes unbreakable. This is the psychology of the rule of one. Neuroscience has proven what ancient wisdom already knew. Every repeated action carves a pathway in your brain. Walk it once, it is faint. Walk it daily, it becomes a highway. That is how identity is built. Not in dreams, not in promises, but in the grind of small actions, repeated. There is a story of Jerry Seinfeld, a comedian who mastered his craft. His method was not to wait for inspiration. He took a calendar and marked an X for every day he wrote a single joke. His only rule was simple. Do not break the chain. Day after day, year after year, that chain became a career, a fortune, a legacy. What chain are you building? Do you have one at all? Or are you breaking it every day you promise and fail to act? Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his journal every morning. Not pages of glory, not speeches of conquest, but reflections on his own weaknesses, his own thoughts, his own discipline. One page at a time. Those pages became meditations, a philosophy that outlived the empire itself. That is the rule of one. The Taoist master said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The Japanese called it kaizen, continuous improvement through tiny acts. And yet in our time, people still chase shortcuts, hacks, overnight success. They despise the chain, but worship the illusion. So, let me ask you, what if you took one step every day for a year? Where would you stand 12 months from now? Would you be healthier, stronger, wiser, Would you have written the book, learned the skill, built the body, saved the money? Or would you be exactly where you are today because you refused to begin? The rule of one is brutal in its simplicity. Do one thing every day, without excuse, without exception. That is how giants are built. The trap is all or nothing. The dreamer who waits for the perfect moment, the perfect motivation, the perfect plan. He burns bright for a week, then disappears. But the one who accepts the small step, who honors the chain, who places one stone at a time, becomes unstoppable. So ask yourself right now, what is the one action you can repeat without fail? One page, one workout, one kind word, one disciplined act. That is your chain. Guard it, protect it. Never let it break. Because once the chain is strong enough, nothing on this earth can pull it apart. A man once tried to run 10 miles on his first day of training. His lungs burned, his legs gave out, and his spirit shattered. He never ran again. Another man ran a single mile every day. Slow, steady, humble. Within a year, he was a marathoner. That is the rule of one. Small steps may look weak, but they carry the weight of giants. The mind deceives us. It whispers that only massive action counts, that if the leap is not spectacular, it is worthless. But look around. The pyramids were not dropped from the sky. They were laid stone by stone, each one carried by hands that believed in the long game. The Great Wall of China stretched across mountains, not because of miracles, but because workers placed one brick after another. Do you see the truth now? Greatness is hidden in the ordinary repetition of small steps. New Year comes, and millions declare resolutions. They shout about transformation, diets, workouts, businesses, promises of a new life. But by February, the gyms are empty, the notebooks untouched, the dreams abandoned. Why? Because they chased the giant leap, and when it crushed them, they gave up. The rule of one does not crush you. It carries you. Ask yourself, which are you chasing? The dramatic leap that burns bright for a week, or the small step that builds unshakable fire over years? Which path will lead you to the giant you dream of? Think of the Japanese principle of Kaizen. Improvement, 1% at a time. If you grow 1% each day, in 1 year, you are 37 times stronger. That is the math of progress. Small steps compound into unstoppable force. Consider a writer. The dream is a book. The fear is the blank page. But one page written every day becomes 365 by the end of the year. One page a day, one thought a day, one action a day. That is all it takes to build a book, a body, a legacy. The tragedy is that most people refuse to begin. They say, one step is too small. One page is meaningless. $1 will not change my life. And so they wait for the perfect chance, which never arrives. Meanwhile, the one who accepts the small step becomes a giant, while the dreamer remains asleep. Pause for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine. If you had taken one step every day for the past year, where would you be right now? Healthier, richer, wiser, stronger. The truth is cruel, but liberating. You are standing exactly where your steps carried you. Nothing more, nothing less. The rule of one does not ask for everything. It asks for consistency. That is the weight of small steps. It feels light in the moment, but over time it moves mountains. So, I ask you, what is the mountain you are avoiding because you fear it is too heavy? And what is the one stone you could carry today? Two people face the same rejection. One says, "This proves I am not enough." The other says, "This proves I am learning." Same event, different story, different life. The rule of one does not just build habits. It rewrites the story you tell yourself. The human mind is a storyteller. It takes facts and turns them into meaning. A failure becomes humiliation. A rejection becomes defeat. But it does not have to. You can choose to tell a different story. You can choose to see rejection as courage, failure as training, small steps as destiny. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not for glory, but as reminders to himself. He told himself discipline is strength, obstacles are opportunities, death is natural, courage is duty. Page by page, story by story, he rewrote the voice in his head until it became the voice of a philosopher king. Jerry Seinfeld wrote one joke a day, not to prove he was brilliant, but to prove he was consistent. His story became simple. I am a writer because I write. Not because the world applauds, but because I show up. That is the rule of one at work. Ask yourself, what story are you living right now? Is it the story of someone waiting for permission, or the story of someone who takes small steps and builds their life? The danger is in all or nothing thinking. You tell yourself, if I cannot change everything, I will change nothing. And so nothing changes. But what if you told yourself, one step matters. One page counts. $1 is the seed of wealth. That story creates a different destiny. Think of Stephen King. His first book was rejected dozens of times. His second ignored. His mind could have told him the story of defeat, but he chose another. Each rejection was one step closer to success. Today, his books have sold hundreds of millions. That is the power of rewriting your story. So, pause. Look at your life. Listen to the words you repeat in your head. Whose voice is it? Is it the voice of fear, or the voice of courage, of doubt, or of discipline? You cannot silence the mind, but you can choose which story it tells. The rule of one is not only about building habits, it is about building identity. Every step whispers something about who you are. One disciplined act says, I am in control. One kind act says, I am compassionate. One page says, I am a writer. Small steps do not just build giants, they build the truth of who you are. Ask yourself this. If your story was written only by your daily actions, what story would it tell? Would it be a tragedy of hesitation or a triumph of persistence? Because, at the end, the story of your life will not be written in dreams or promises. It will be written in the small steps you took, one by one, until the giant stood before you. Imagine improving just 1% each day. It sounds like nothing, almost laughable. But here is the hidden truth. Small improvements compound into unstoppable transformation. The rule of one is not only about a single step, it is about the mathematics of persistence. If you improve by 1% daily for a year, you are 37 times stronger. This is not motivation. It is arithmetic. The compound effect is a law of life. Drops of water carve valleys through stone. Tiny seeds become forests. One breath after another sustains your existence. Why do we ignore the same principle in our growth? Athletes understand this truth. Champions are not born from one heroic training session. They are built by 1% improvements, stacked relentlessly. Swimmers shave off fractions of a second. Weightlifters add a single pound to the bar. Over time, these micro-victories shape Olympians. Think of a man who saves a single dollar each day. At first, it feels meaningless. But as the months pass, that dollar compounds into hundreds, into thousands, into security. Wealth is not built by lottery tickets. It is built by steady, small, deliberate steps. So ask yourself, what is your 1%? What is the tiny improvement you can make today that will compound into greatness tomorrow? One page written, one push-up, one moment of gratitude. Do not despise it, because it looks small. Giants are hidden inside the smallest acts. The tragedy is impatience. People expect instant results. They want the body in a week, the fortune in a month, the mastery in a year. When it does not appear, they quit. But mastery is not a miracle. It is a compounding of discipline. Remember the bamboo tree. It spends years growing unseen beneath the soil, invisible to the world. Then, almost overnight, it shoots upward, rising dozens of feet in weeks. People marvel at the sudden growth, forgetting the years of invisible steps underground. That is the power of 1%. Invisible at first, unstoppable later. Pause and reflect. If you chose to grow 1% every day for the next year, where would you stand? What habits would define you? What identity would you build? The rule of one does not require perfection. It requires persistence. A 1% shift every day writes the future. Discipline is freedom. Without it, your mind controls you. With it, you command your life. And discipline is not measured in grand gestures, but in the quiet power of repetition. Think of the pianist who practices scales daily. The sound is boring, mechanical, uninspired, but in time, those scales become symphonies. Think of the boxer throwing the same punch 1,000 times until it becomes instinct. Think of the monk repeating the same prayer, carving stillness into his soul. The world mocks repetition. It craves novelty, excitement, quick results. But repetition builds mastery. Repetition builds identity. Repetition builds freedom. Jerry Seinfeld marked his calendar with an X every day he wrote a joke. Not because the joke was good, but because the act of writing was his discipline. Do not break the chain, he said. The chain is the secret. So, ask yourself, what chain are you building? Do you even have one? Or do you break it every day by giving in to excuses? Discipline is not punishment. It is the structure that carries you when motivation dies. Because motivation will die, but discipline remains. It is the act of showing up when you do not feel like it. Writing the page when uninspired. Training when tired. Saving when tempted to spend. That is the rule of one. Seneca said, "If you wish to rule yourself, practice in the smallest things. Skip a meal to show hunger does not own you. Wake early to prove you own the day." These small acts of discipline sharpen the blade of the mind. Pause here. Reflect honestly. Where in your life are you breaking the chain? Where have you promised, but not repeated? Discipline feels heavy in the moment, but it is lighter than regret. Discipline feels strict, but it is kinder than chaos. So let me ask again. Who is in control? You or your impulses? The answer is revealed not in your words, but in your repetitions. Because repetition builds freedom, and freedom is the foundation of giants. Every step you try to take will be met with resistance, not from the world, but from within. The mind is clever. It whispers that you can start tomorrow, that you deserve to rest, that this one time will not matter. That whisper is the enemy. That whisper is the reason most people never change. Stephen Pressfield called it resistance, the invisible force that rises whenever you try to grow. It is the voice that tells the writer not to write, the runner not to run, the dreamer not to act. And it never disappears. The stronger your ambition, the stronger resistance becomes. But here is the truth. Resistance is not a wall. It is a test. Every time you act in spite of it, you grow stronger. Every time you surrender, it grows stronger. One decision at a time, one battle at a time, you shape your destiny. Think of Thomas Edison. Thousands of failed attempts to create the light bulb. Thousands of moments when resistance could have won. But each failure was met with another attempt. That persistence lit the world. Ask yourself, how many dreams have you buried because resistance convinced you they were impossible? How many times have you stopped at the first whisper of doubt? The rule of one is your weapon against resistance. One step every day, no matter how small, cuts through the lie. Resistance tells you to skip today. The rule of one says, take the step anyway. Resistance says, wait until you are ready. The rule of one says, start now. Pause and reflect. Where is resistance holding you today? Is it in your health, your work, your relationships? And what is the one act you can take right now to silence that whisper? Resistance never disappears, but you can grow stronger than it. Step by step, act by act, you turn resistance into respect. At last we arrive at the truth hidden in the rule of one. Small steps do more than build habits. They build giants. Look back through history. Every empire, every invention, every revolution began as one step, one spark, one decision. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat. One act that echoed across a nation. A monk in China copied scrolls every day, preserving wisdom that would outlast centuries. A young programmer wrote lines of code daily that would one day become a company changing the world. Giants are not accidents. Giants are built in silence, brick by brick. The danger is that you do not notice your own growth. Day by day, it feels invisible. You look in the mirror and think nothing has changed. But growth is hidden in the accumulation. Then one day, others see what you became, and they call you an overnight success. They do not see the years of one step repeated, but you will know. Ask yourself, who are you becoming with your steps? What giant are you building with your habits? Every choice you make today is shaping a version of you tomorrow, stronger or weaker, disciplined or distracted, free or enslaved. Which giant are you feeding? The rule of one is merciless but fair. It will give you exactly what you have repeated. If you repeat excuses, you will live a life of excuses. If you repeat courage, you will live a life of strength. Imagine for a moment, 1 year from today, you have honored the rule of one. You took one step each day toward health, toward knowledge, toward mastery. How different is your life? Now imagine the opposite. A year wasted, steps ignored, promises broken. How different is that life? The choice is already in your hands. Pause. Take a breath. Decide. Because the giant you will be is already being built stone by stone in the silence of today. And when the world finally sees you, when they call you unstoppable, when they ask for your secret, you will smile because you will know the truth. Giants are not born. Giants are built. Giants are not born. Giants are built. Built in silence, in discipline, in steps so small the world ignores them. But those steps, repeated without excuse, without surrender, create power that nothing can stop. You have seen it now. The rule of one is not about glory. It is about showing up. It is about placing one stone today and another tomorrow, until the wall stands taller than fear, stronger than doubt, unshaken by time. So the question is simple. What is your one step today? Will you write the page? Will you take the breath? Will you choose the act that builds the giant waiting inside you? Pause and let it sink in. Because one choice, made now, can become the chain that never breaks. This is the end of one journey, but not the end of the code. The rule of one is only the beginning. Ahead lies another chapter, another law, one that demands more of you. It is called the Discipline Code. And if you are ready, it will show you how to not only build giants, but command them. So ask yourself, will you take the next step?